Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a video here that we're going to do this evening that I look forward to doing each and every year because of the importance that I feel that it has going into the pre-rut. So what we're talking about this evening, guys, is connecting the dots in the whitetail world, connecting the dots that are given to you that we often overlook. Taking that past inventory, taking that past information and connecting those dots to have a successful hunt on a mature buck or a buck of choice, any deer that you are looking to pursue. 9 times out of 10, 90% of the time, they will leave a footprint, right? No pun intended, but they leave a path for us. That path is often historic. So that ties into number one, guys. It's a kind of a complex topic, so we're going to get right to the point here and try to hopefully bring this to the surface and really kind of dissect this one together. So I feel, like I said, because I feel that this has so much importance. Number one, trail camera inventory. Today's world, guys, as you know, if any of you out there follow this channel or multiple other channels across the industry, you'll know how powerful the cell camera really is today. Not only the cell camera, but trail cameras in general, right? That whole world has evolved. Sadly, folks don't use it to what the fullest extent that I feel that you possibly can. I learned this process, guys, at a pretty young age. Trying to date myself here a little bit, but going back to my days of guiding 20 plus years ago, I learned real quick that a whitetail deer of any age, especially a mature whitetail buck, will and often does, he leaves a trail of historic information. Problem with it is a lot of us don't take the tools that we have today, pick up that information that they've left behind and piece them to connecting the dots and connect the puzzle, build the puzzle, if you will, and use that to our advantage. Sad, but very true. The past information part of number one is just that. Most of the mature bucks, like I was saying, guys, around the country will leave a path. They will leave you information from last year. One of the topics here, guys, that ties to this is kind of a slogan that I've been using for the last several years, is history always repeats itself. It's a very strong piece of this puzzle, and it's something I highly recommend that you kind of lock that term in. History always repeats itself in the deer woods. And we're going to dissect this. I'm going to really bring this to the forefront for you guys. But remember that history always repeats itself. So whether your camera, guys, it is in a new location, because if it's such as a new farm, like the farm was to us last year, whether that camera is located in a new location, or it's between bedding and food. It's on food, it's in bedding, or it's in that transition between those two locations. There is so much inventory, so much information that you can really get, from them. Not just a number of deer, right? Not just and we're all guilty of it. Go through, especially when you have 20 plus cameras or whatever, you're looking through, and it's just about that fast. You're going through, looking, kind of weeding certain deer out, bringing certain deer to the forefront. So we'll finish with that. Once you find one of those pictures of your target animal or multiple target animals, what I find is, and this is something that I look at because it happens to me all the time, right? I not only get to look at my photo collection throughout the year, I get to look at, hundreds, if not thousands, and tens of thousands of pictures throughout the year from clients emailing at their farms, helping them with the design, traveling all over the country at trade shows, whatever the case is. I really get to see a lot of that inventory. You're just looking at pictures. I highly, highly recommend, guys. I'm as guilty of that as anyone. I still get myself in trouble with that today. Looking at pictures and not getting the information, totally collecting the information off that camera. Guys, the date's there. The time's there. What that information does is it sets a huge piece of the puzzle as far as using that for not only when that picture was taken, but for what that deer is going to do in the future and what that deer has done in the past. It's a huge temptation to want to move in and when you're seeing that daylighted movement in the spots where you can't hunt, right? We physically find a lot of, there's a couple of clients that are gonna, hear this and kind of laugh about this because it happened to them this year. We find many spots that are the best spots on a farm that you can't hunt, that you shouldn't hunt, right? Best tree, not the best spot though. There's multiple other stand locations, guys, that will feed that location. You have to be smart about that. And if you hang a trail camera in there, we're all guilty of it. You get big, beautiful buck pictures on a food plot or in a bedding area, you're gonna wanna hang there. Now, what I have is I have my cameras, like here in Kentucky, I have my cameras. They're all solar, but the ones on my food plots, yes, I have them on the food plots, but they're on my feeders, right, for the inventory. But I know, other than my gun stands that are going to reach out and touch, I could have a 200-inch deer on that feeder every night, and I am not going to try, even attempt to hunt that food plot. So I feel very comfortable knowing I'm not going to do that. One, because there's no tree stands on there, right? I can't physically do that unless I went and sat on the ground with them, which I'm not going to do. Because that is, as soon as I get that information, my brain goes to, where did he come from? Which way did he come into the camera? Which way did he leave? What was the time? And then I start studying down that chain. So one of the things here we'll touch on, guys, is I mentioned this a lot on the channel, but I'll quickly touch on this because we got a lot to cover. One of my goals is when I get to a property, most properties are a bypass property, right? If you get a trail camera picture of them today, then you may get a trail camera picture of them 2 or 3 days down the road. You might get an evening, you might get a morning. And trying to piece that puzzle together is real hard. My goal for you guys is a perfect example of the farm here. When I get a picture of a buck, this sounds crazy to some folks, but it's the God's honest truth. My clients, past clients, can attest to it. When I get a picture of a buck, guys, I want to get a picture of him in 1, 2, 3, or 4 different locations. What that does is that sets a pattern. That sets a pattern for me to get familiar with him, to me know where he's going in that pattern that I'm getting. All of those cameras are at a stand location where I know that I can strategically get in and harvest that animal at any one of those locations. So what you'll find is maybe he's at stand 1, 2, 3, and then he's at stand 6 and 7. The goal is to try to figure out what is the missing link on them stands that he bypassed. Usually you'll find it's contour that takes him off, or it's a break in habitat that leads him astray somewhere else. Big portion of the puzzle that we need to cure, because the longer we build that, and the longer that we keep him under control, if you will, the easier it is to put a game plan together to be successful. The best thing that you can do is, if you're anywhere in a whitetail range, your first and foremost thought process on any property should be, do I have contour? A lot of properties you don't think it does. The best way to do that is learn the system that I teach about using your hunt stand app as a hybrid, I call it, using it so you can see your contour, and this is why. Contour to a whitetail deer is king. I always tell everybody, once you find it, once you understand it, and once you learn how to hunt that, guys, contour is king. That's the first thing you look at, like I was saying, on a farm, and then hopefully through what is there already and what we can build because of being private land owners, we take contour then and tie it to edge. You put contour and edge together in a whitetail's world. If you can keep your stink off that line of travel, you're in the chips. Here's an example, guys, I'd like to share with you. And this is not a bragging point. This is, I feel, I have a couple of numbers that I use, a couple of percentages that I share a lot. And it's because I really feel that I have, as any business owner, you're going to have strong points, you're going to have weak points, right? One of my strong points is teaching contour, because that's one of the areas I cut my teeth in the industry in west central Illinois, in southern Pike County, northern Calhoun County was one of them, and multiple since then, southwest Wisconsin, where contour is king. And I start focusing in on how many of my clients are successful, how many of my clients actually build the farm that I designed. I have a 95% build rate. That's one of the numbers that I really watch and really, strive, really stay driven, if you will, to make sure those happen. And another one is I follow my numbers about how many clients out there versus how many, successful clients as far as harvesting any deer, mature deer or deer of their choice. They harvest those bucks, and how many of those pertain to different habitat features, one being contour. So the number here that we're going to touch on real quick, guys, is to show you how powerful this is. So these were the clients that started hunting their properties after we started, or I designed it, they started putting it together. That year I had 64 clients, 34 that I know of, 34 clients had harvested bucks. Very good year. That was one of the higher years, and I think a lot of that had to do too, guys, is because 2020 and everybody was in the woods, right? And a lot of people 2020 and 2021, a lot of folks were in the woods, a lot of people doing a lot of hunting. So my numbers were great that year. I always take it another step further, like I said, guys. I started tying into that how many of those bucks related to a line of travel as far as contour, as far as a topographical influence, how many of those bucks were. 26, that's why it's got a money sign right there. 26 of those clients that year killed those deer on the line of travel, on a contour line per your topographical area on your farm, on their farms. 26, guys. It's a huge number. Some did it and didn't even realize they did it until we talked again, and I said, going through conversation, and then I would say, let me guess, it was at this stand, or they would tell me which stand they harvested it at, and we talked about water holes. It was on the contour, and all of a sudden, all of this now that we're talking about starts coming together, and the light bulb goes off with folks, and from that point on, you will never hunt the same way ever again. Once you see it, guys, you are a believer. Once you feel it, touch it and feel it, and you're successful, you can travel anywhere around the country and be successful on contour and edge, and it just benefits, it just helps your strategy as a whitetail hunter across the entire whitetail range. So the term that we're not going to forget, right, is what we talked about at the beginning of this, is what history always repeats itself. So now what we do is what we do, guys, is we go in and we get really in depth with our trail camera pictures from last year. We bring them forward, and if we have spots that we advanced deer on from last year, we are able to go around, take the contour, take the inventory per the contour, understand how this whole thing connects together, and we're able to connect the dots. We're able to get on a program such as, or the only program that I use to do this is Weather Underground. You immediately go to Weather Underground, bring that up, type in the date and the time from your trail camera picture from last year, and if you've been following this for a year or two down the road, you'll know that weather pattern or that wind pattern. You start picking and choosing those dates where you've got those solid daylight versus PM movement and that target buck that you're after. What you'll find, history always repeats itself. What you'll find is you advance that to this year. October 27th is one of the biggest days that I've always connected on this, or had clients connected on this for over the entire year, or over the entire years. Pre-rut, in rut, it's more dominant because it's not food influenced, right? The food doesn't change, or if the food changes, your movement's going to change. Well, this doesn't change. That line of travel, guys, doesn't change unless you do some major whoopses or major creations or reconstruction of a property. A lot of that will not change. You're just looking for it, right? So taking that information, going in depth, pulling that information off your cards, going to Weather Underground, typing that in, getting you're building a algorithm is what you're building, right? Of your own inventory of your own deer, not a national algorithm of like weather and when you're supposed to be hunting and yada yada yada, right? Using a algorithm such as DeerCast, great tool, This is the next step though. That gets you very close to where you need what you need to focus on. This is actually what you are focusing on per the deer and per the critters that you have on your farm. This is you. DeerCast covers everybody, right? You'll find weather patterns and especially wind patterns when he was there. The goal is you got to pick and choose where along that line of travel can you hunt him on that when he is scent checking that area. If he's on that line of travel and you've got a bunch of pictures and it's like all my stands there are AM, then you have to wait till you can hunt him in the AM. Don't force it. Try to hunt him in the PM just because he is daylighting at that spot, because what's going to happen, them thermals are going to sink on top of his head and you have totally interrupted all of this. You can take this, implement it on your property. If you have contour, take this, guys, implement this on there. Know where you're at, really reading that contour line. Don't cut the line of travel. Take that information, connect the dots that were there, go back, pull that information, and you can change your success of your season around within weeks, not years, within days or weeks. It can happen overnight. Once you take the time to read what that buck, those bucks, multiple bucks have done. If this buck did this and you harvested him, the next buck did it, you harvest, there's a pattern. Find the pattern. All properties that I've ever set foot on have a pattern, a home range, a contour line that never goes away, that you can talk to the neighbors, everybody around there, start taking their success stories. All of a sudden, if you had a pin, a board that covered 5 miles, 10 miles around your properties, guys, what you're going to find is 90% of those successful hunts are going to fall on those contour lines. You don't take the information and you don't connect the dots, you will get there. You just won't get there as quick as the next guy that's willing to take these and connect the dots faster with everything that we have at our fingertips today, guys. Hope this one helps. Thanks.